If you've ever been single, you've probably fantasized about hopping on a plane, flying to a faraway country, and dating an exotic beauty, like the guys from Road to El Dorado. That should not be a kid's movie. Well, I've spent the last decade traveling the world, dating women in over 70 countries, and I have to say, certain elements definitely make some countries a lot worse or a lot better than others, especially when it comes to having some casual fun. As in some countries, that casual fun, or even sincere romance, can land your ass in jail. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. So which are the worst countries to be single, dating, and looking for women? And which are the 3 best? And what makes one country better than another? Well, let's check them out, and I think you'll see how far apart the number 1 worst and best picks are. And make sure to watch into the end because I have a special gift for you to help your love life soar to new heights. And make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos to help you land the woman of your dreams. Starting our list at the number 10 worst country in the world is India. And it's a bit of a weird one because India is an insanely beautiful and interesting country, and the women are no different. But if you're an Indian guy, it's pretty hard to land a date. Over the last 10 years, I've taught 8 boot camps in India, and across the board, guys struggle with one thing. Women are just super cautious of meeting new guys, especially on the street or in malls. So if a totally normal Indian guy approaches a woman with the best intentions, her guard goes way up, and she's probably gonna think he's a creep, even if he's not. And the reason for this is that India has a really bad track record for attacking and assaulting women. So women, rightfully so, don't feel very safe. And of course, that's gonna make it harder for a decent Indian guy who's looking to land a date. If you're not Indian, however, a woman's guard is usually not gonna be as high, so therefore it's not nearly as hard. In fact, one time I was teaching a boot camp in Mumbai at Phoenix Mall. We had 10 guys approaching women, giving them compliments. And of course, they all had sincere intentions, but unfortunately, it's not the biggest mall, and we had a big group of guys. So the same Indian girl got approached multiple times. And at one point, she said, "Oh my God, what is going on, man? I've been approached many times. This is very strange. I'm going to tell the security." That's my really bad Indian accent. No offense, my Indian brothers. I love you guys. And he decided to just come clean and say, no, don't tell security. We're just doing this workshop. We have this dating coach from the US helping us out, build more confidence, blah, blah, blah. And she got really intrigued. So she wanted to meet me. But I didn't know that. I was giving feedback to another guy. He's standing in front of me. All of a sudden, I look over and I see this girl, Indian girl, just staring at me. And I'm like, what is going on? And she just keeps staring at me. So eventually I told my student, I said, hold on one second. I walked up to her and I said, you can't just keep looking at me like that without at least saying hi. And she goes, hi. And she shakes my hand really strong, holds it, and then takes her other hand and starts rubbing my arm. I thought she was a hooker. So I even said, are you working? And she goes, working? What are you talking about? And I said, oh, never mind. She was just super intrigued and she really wanted to meet up with me later that evening. Unfortunately, this was July during monsoon season. Never do a boot camp in India during monsoon season. And so it got so flooded that night that we couldn't even end up meeting. In fact, we almost had to cancel the rest of the boot camp. But the good news is if you're Indian, we've seen some great results from guys on our boot camps. So it's definitely not completely hopeless like it would be in some other countries. In fact, here's one more quick story. At a boot camp in Bangalore, I had 3 Indian guys and 1 white guy who worked in the tech industry. He was from Germany, he was really tall, he was buff, and he was super good looking. He took the boot camp more as entertainment, and he really didn't do pretty much anything that I taught him. He was just kind of like tagging along. It was quite strange. But the Indian guys were super adamant about learning what I had to teach them. In fact, one Indian guy who was overweight, had crazy, like curly, not super attractive hair, and big, thick glasses, got 2 instant dates during the boot camp, whereas the white guy who was ridiculously handsome didn't even get a phone number because he didn't follow my method. All right, we got to get through this list a little bit faster. So number 9 on the list is France, in particular, Paris. Now this will probably come as a huge shock since France is the number 1 country associated with romance, especially Paris. But I've traveled there and I gotta say, I was not impressed for a specific reason. The sights, of course, are incredible, but I was never motivated to approach. Why? Well, for the most part, the girls dressed like shit. Maybe it's just the fashion out there. Maybe I have specific tastes. But the way they dressed in their loose, baggy clothes just didn't do it for me. As I sat at a cafe eating a baguette, the accordion was playing, the Eiffel Tower in the distance, but no love at first sight. Funny enough, the guys dressed super fashionable. So if you're a gay guy, then France just might be the place for you. But as a single straight guy, you're probably gonna wanna have that motivation to approach. And let's be honest, at the start, a lot of that motivation is gonna come from whether she looks put together. If she looks frumpy, you're probably not gonna bother, which is what happened to me in France. I had a similar problem in New Zealand, by the way. Beautiful Lord of the Rings scenery, but I never found myself motivated to approach. In both Auckland and Paris, I only did one approach each. And both times, she was from Eastern Europe. So go figure. The number 8 worst country is Qatar. Straight up, Qatar has one of the highest sex ratios on the planet. And not in a good way. There are 300 men for every 100 women, which means your odds for getting a date are just really low because there's too much competition. But that's not the only reason I would single out Qatar. I actually did a workshop a while back in Doha, and I have to say, Qatar women are very receptive to being approached. However, Qatar men really don't like it. I actually made a video of me approaching a bunch of Qatar women in Doha, and it went viral in Qatar. But not in a good way. I was sent some pretty serious abuse, even worse than the kind I usually get in YouTube comments, which is saying something. Generally speaking, you want to approach women in a country where doing so doesn't make guys want to beat the shit out of you. So for that, Qatar gets a knock. And to be honest, so does the entire Middle East. Now for something a little more positive. Let's break up the list of worst countries and dive into what is, for me, the 3rd best country in the world for meeting attractive women. Now, in almost all lists of best countries to meet women, you're gonna see 2 things. The first is that you almost never see a Western country on the list. Why? Because most Western guys, they go traveling, do a lot better abroad, plus the women have that extra exotic factor. The second is that you'll almost always see a Slavic country on the list. Why? Well, because Slavic women are some of the most beautiful women in the world. But for this pick, I wanted to do something different because it's almost a dead tie between Croatia and Australia. Croatia is a country that has it all. Beautiful islands, great food, it doesn't break the bank, and its main cities are all pretty decent. But the girls in particular are extremely beautiful. They dress insanely well, are super feminine, and they aren't averse to foreigners hitting on them. If you want to travel to a European country and date beautiful women, then this should be a top pick. And as for Australia, well, do you remember when I said that Western guys typically do a lot better in non-Western countries? Well, every guy, no matter where he's from, usually does better in Australia. Maybe with the exception of Sydney, where people are a little bit more money-oriented. Australian girls are super free-spirited, almost always tanned and in good shape, dress pretty well, and they're always up for having fun. Want to go to an English-speaking country where you can date a hot surfer girl? This is where you want to go. Now let's get back to some bad countries, and this one will probably surprise you. Number 7 on my list is Argentina. Now don't get me wrong, I had some amazing experiences dating Argentinian women. Now I only spent 2 days in Argentina in Buenos Aires, and I had a fantastic time. But I've heard it countless times from guys traveling around South America that they have no luck in Argentina. They say the women were way colder, way less receptive, and it was just really hard to vibe with the women there compared to all the other countries in Latin America. Which is really strange because the rest of the continent is pretty much as good for dating as it gets. So in comparison, according to a lot of guys that I've met, Argentina is a bit of an uphill battle that just isn't worth it. The number 6 worst country is Indonesia. Now this is a weird one because Indonesia is also one of the best countries. I know, that sounds a little dumb, but hear me out. Indonesia is a great country to travel to, especially Bali or Jakarta. There's insane beaches and mountains. It's super cheap. You can spend days rolling around on a scooter, and everyone's really friendly. However, when it comes to dating, it can be hit or miss in an instant. And this all comes down to where the Indonesian girl you're dating happens to be from. If she's from the city, then she's like any other girl in the world, date as normal. But if she's from outside the city, then her cultural norms might be very different than yours. And you can easily find yourself in a situation where she finds it totally normal to go on 10 dates before she even kisses you. My advice, figure out what kind of girl you're dating early on, or even better yet, go visit the Philippines instead. The 5th worst country is Germany. It's not a good sign when the thing I liked most about a country is the giant sausages. Bratwurst, that is. I guess you could say it's the worst country. As far as dating went, it was kind of lackluster. Germans in general are super analytical and kind of serious, which as far as having a fun, passionate dating life goes, it feels like the exact opposite of Latin America. Now, of course, this isn't to say every German is like this, but as far as European countries go, you're better served by hitting up Ukraine, Romania, or Croatia. Asia. Now let's go back to the best countries. Number 2 on my list is none other than Colombia. Colombia is an incredible country for dating. Forget the inaccurate bad rap it gets for being dangerous. Colombians are super friendly and super passionate. The women in particular are probably the best looking Latinas on earth. And if you end up in a relationship with one, you'll encounter a new level of passion that you probably didn't even know existed. Yes, they're everything the stereotype makes them out to be. If she loves you, then she really loves you. But if she's jealous, then whoo, look out. For example, I went on a second date with a girl and she brought her friend, which to me I thought was a good thing. And she starts looking at my phone, she's looking at the pictures, no big deal, I'm flirting with her friends. When I got my phone back, I looked at my WhatsApp messages and she had been saying really bad, awful things to another girl I was dating. Needless to say, I was livid and the date did not end the way I thought it was going to. But Colombia is great for dating because of how receptive Colombian women are to a confident guy approaching them, and how the culture of salsa dancing and salsa bars easily facilitates getting to know a girl and getting close to her. And Colombian women definitely expect a certain level of confidence. But if you can bring it, you will be rewarded. Just remember the phrase, ¿Quieres bailar? By the way, if you want to see me approach gorgeous Latinas, then make sure to follow me on Instagram and watch my stories. And feel free to send me a DM, I'd love to chat with you. Now, the 4th worst country for meeting beautiful women is China. China is a big place. Problem is, there are a lot more men looking for a date than there are single women. In fact, by 2030, it's estimated that there will be 30 million more single men than women. Hardly ideal. The problem has manifested into a pretty strange dating scene, where parents get heavily involved in their children's dating so they can avoid social shame, guys buying hundreds of iPhones as ways of winning girls' affections. The BBC even reported a guy buying his future mother-in-law a brand new house before they could even discuss the next steps. In other words, competition to find a woman is very high. So it's a really unequal power dynamic that puts you on the back foot. Now, if you do go to China, stay away from Beijing and head on over to Shanghai, where you can meet some amazing foreign women as the city is crawling with international models, especially if you know the right clubs. Next, the 3rd worst country on my list is Israel. Israel is a crazy place. You can go to biblical places like Nazareth and Jerusalem. Half the country is a whole other country separated by a giant war zone, and soldiers with machine guns are walking around everywhere. Now, nothing against the Israeli people, they were awesome, but it's just a pretty intense place, and that intensity has definitely rubbed off on the women. I don't know if it's because the government forces them to serve in the military, but compared to other women around the world, they just came off as more tough, a little bit more masculine, and unapproachable, which wasn't so great. In fact, I remember when we did a boot camp there a while back, 2 of our trainers, Josiah and Duke, went to a club to go approach women. I was on a date with a non-Israeli woman. She happened to be from Mexico, kind of strange. But when I went to go meet them at the club, I saw them walking towards me. They had already left the club and their heads were down. They looked defeated and they just said, man, it was tough. So I definitely wouldn't go back just for meeting women. All right, we're almost done with the countdown. The 2nd worst country in the world, in my opinion, is Bhutan. If stalking single women through the night, breaking into their houses, and trying to persuade them to hook up with you is your thing, then you should probably either be in jail or in Bhutan. Because there's a tradition called night hunting, where men stalk through the night, breaking into the houses of the girls that they want to hook up with for some fun, and escape into the night like Batman before her parents can catch them.
Oh, wow, they really just vanish. Huh? Oh, that's rude.
Although it's not without risks. If you're caught, the girl's parents might scold you with hot water or demand you marry her. I think I'll stick to bars. Which brings us to number 1. And you're probably thinking, what the hell can be worse than being scolded by hot water? Well, the number 1 worst country for dating in the world is, drumroll please, Iran. For the simple reason that dating isn't allowed by the state, which, if you don't know, is kind of a religious dictatorship that you don't want to mess with. People have been put in prison as spies for as little as making YouTube videos. So yeah, that definitely rules me out. But this situation sucks because a lot of Persian women are insanely beautiful. But to date them, you're gonna have to sneak around or have a really good excuse if the police question why you're with the girl that you're dating, as well as alibis for both of your families. There have been reports of men being taken to police stations, having to explain their relationship and even having to explain it in court. What the hell? That's how much casual dating or even romantic dating is frowned upon. But hey, if you meet the love of your life there, persevering through those dangers might just make one hell of a story. Now, there might be loopholes around this or areas where it's less frowned upon, but in general, there's just way better places on earth for dating. I would just go there. In fact, there's one place in particular I would definitely go, because the #1 best place in the world for dating is Brazil. First of all, Brazilian people are the most friendly, open-minded, approachable people on earth. And combine that with a highly sexualized culture, and you've got a recipe for great dating. Whether you're looking for short-term fun or an emotionally rewarding relationship, Brazil has it all. Women are super open to being approached, and they expect you to be sexually assertive, as Brazilian men, for the most part, do not fuck around. Makeouts come quick, but don't think that means you're gonna score. It might not even mean that she likes you very much, because it seems to me like making out is almost equivalent to shaking hands in Brazil, especially during Carnival. But if you connect with a girl and have a good time, most cities are littered with short-term motels, where you can have an even better time. Because most Brazilians live with their parents, this kind of thing is not uncommon. My advice to you, if you're going to Brazil, embrace the idea of having fun, because that's what they're all about. And if you see a girl you like, by all means, go up and talk to her. In everything that makes a place great for dating, openness, fun, attractiveness, sexuality, you name it, Brazil stands out heads and shoulders above the rest. In fact, it's the only place I actually had a girl grab me within the first 5 minutes of the date to make out with me. Now that you know where and where not to meet beautiful women, once you meet them, you need to take things to the next level. So I created an entire cheat sheet called the Escalation Cheat Sheet, where it shows you how to take things from the platonic, friendly vibe to the I want to rip your clothes off vibe, so that you can escalate to intimacy in a way that is smooth and never creepy or too pushy. And I want to give you a free copy. At the end of this video, there'll be a link to the right of this screen. Just click that link and download the cheat sheet. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram. I have a lot of cool content there, and feel free to send me a DM. I would love to chat with you. And leave me a comment down below. I would love to know what other countries that you think are really bad countries for dating, as well as other countries that you think are the best, because I would love to visit there. And last but not least, if you want me and my team to actually take you in field in a live boot camp and show you how to meet, attract, and go on instant dates with beautiful women that you currently think are way out of your league, then check out the boot camp schedule down below and apply for a free breakthrough session. Thanks for watching this video. My name's Matt Artisan from The Attractive Man, and I'll see you in the next video down below.